Item 4, there are no petitions, which brings us to public input in item 5. There were 5 requests received, one declined because it was too late. Yeah, way too late. It was too late by the time you put it in to tell you, so that's the reason. So that brings us to the first item for today is, and I think this is via electronic link. So we have online, hopefully, is Emma McInnes, representing Bike Auckland and Women in Urbanism, and Emma looks to address the committee in support of the draft speed management plan, and I think Emma's up on the screen now. So basically, Emma, as hopefully you've been told, roughly 5 minutes with a warning bell if it's going close to that, and then a few questions afterwards. So welcome, Emma, and over to you.
Ata Marie, ko Emma McInnes aho. Today I'm here speaking on behalf of Women in Urbanism Aotearoa and Bike Auckland in support of the Auckland Speed Management Plan. So thank you very much for letting me speak today and for being able to do it remotely. Between juggling work, study, advocacy and a toddler, it's becoming a lot harder to attend council events, and I think that's something that mothers in particular can sympathise with. Next slide, please. Firstly, I want to cover who Women in Urbanism Aotearoa is. We're an advocacy group who focus on how we can make our urban environments more inclusive of everyone. And it's just me in front of you today, but I represent a much larger group of wahine in particular who are passionate about cities. Many of our members work in the city building professions, and many are also nurses and teachers and wahine in the community who are really fed up with the way that the exclusive way that cities and towns are designed and built. So cities are really one of humanity's greatest inventions, allowing us to house and keep safe populations in a way that is compact and less intensive on nature. But like the wonderful Jane Jacobs, who's on the screen, once said, cities and towns are truly only successful and inclusive places when they're designed by and for everyone. Next slide, please. So at Women in Urbanism, we focus on all elements of sexism in the built environment, from highlighting the cultural pandemic of men spreading on public transport. Next slide, please. To supporting gender equity in the design and build of our cities. We advocate for equitable and inclusive spaces and places such as parks, playgrounds, squares, streets, housing, and our public transportation system. And we campaign for safer urban environments that prevent violence towards all people, especially women. And next slide, please. And slowing speeds on our roads and streets is at its core an equity issue, which is why I am here speaking about it today. And so this image on the screen shows Women in Urbanism's vision for a truly equitable and safe streets. Slowing traffic speeds more widely across Auckland is one of the measures we support, and there's a few reasons. Firstly, elderly people, people with disability, youth, and low-income communities are more at risk from higher speeds. This is because they cross streets more slowly and are less likely to drive and are less likely to live in walkable neighbourhoods. Road injury and death disproportionately impact Māori young people and low-income people. Secondly, children's independent travel has massively reduced in the past 30 years due to parents' concerns over traffic safety, despite most New Zealand children wanting to get to school on their own steam. AUT research has shown that our children have really lost the freedom of travel, in part because of the ridiculously high speeds on our roads and streets. A recently released study showed that children in New Zealand are twice as likely to die from traumatic injuries, many of these injuries from road accidents, than children in Victoria, Australia. And because children have lost their independence and freedom to simply walk in their neighbourhoods to get to school, women as primary caregivers, yes, we still are disadvantaged, as the school and daycare drop-off still primarily falls to them. And this can be seen in NZTA travel data, where women's travel by car significantly increases at the start and end of a school day. We don't have to imagine how much congestion this would also remove from our roads. We notice it every school holidays. Traffic speeds also concern women more, as women walk more than men in Aotearoa and use our footpaths more than men, according to research by NZTA. And they're more likely to be accompanying someone that they're caring for, such as children or the elderly. And women are therefore more at risk in our neighbourhoods with fast-moving vehicles. What's really important to note is that if we designed for all the aforementioned groups who have the most needs in our cities, we design cities that actually work really well for everyone. So we leave no one behind, and that includes men. Next slide, please. Critically, we can actually have equitable streets that meet the needs of our roads and street users who have become vulnerable due to poor city planning by organising our roads and streets in a hierarchy that creates slow speed, safe, people-centred neighbourhoods, which still allow for our arterials to do the really heavy lifting of vehicles, allowing our tradies and our trucks and our buses and the people who like to hoon, to the speed limit, to move quickly and efficiently around the city. Waterview is a really great example of this in Auckland. It's already happening there. We've got 30-kilometre speeds in our neighbourhoods that are really, that are really supporting children to do a lot more walking to school or to the playground independently, while Great North Road has higher speeds and carries all our commuters and deliveries to the rest of the city. How much longer do I have? A minute? Or is that the end? Oh, okay, I'll wrap it up. So next slide, please. This is the kind of thing that we enable when speeds are slow and streets are quiet enough, more efficient use of public space for our children. There are no parks close by to this house, especially ones with hoops, and this Auckland family doesn't have a backyard space for a hoop. Instead, the kids are using their street to stay healthy and active, as many children do, a great number of them in cities around the world. To wrap up, my daughter and I walked past a group of primary school students just yesterday who are monitoring traffic speeds on their school road, and they were standing there with clipboards and speed guns. Our children shouldn't have to be so concerned about traffic speeds at the school gate that they choose to do assignments on road speeds to then take their findings and plead their case to a local board. We should already have streets so safe that our children can just get on with shooting hoops instead of traffic speeds. So I'll end here. Thank you for your time today, and good luck voting on the congestion charging later today. Women in Urbanism still also supports congestion charging, along with cheaper, more frequent public transportation to ensure Aucklanders have greater mobility options. Kia ora.
Thank you very much. Emma, are you available to take some questions from other councillors?
Yeah, sure, go for it.
Okay, great. So we've got a question from Councillor Hills.
Kia ora, thank you, Chair. And thanks, Emma. Sorry, I missed the beginning of your presentation. I was downstairs in another meeting, but thank you for being here. I have two questions. One, would it concern you a lot, or you may have mentioned it, or you may know that there are now no women directors on Auckland Transport, and what kind of effect do you think that makes on potential decision making?
Yes, and thank you for the question. Yes, I mean, cities have historically been built by men and for men, and they're not doing so well in terms of designing equitable places that work well for the needs of everyone, especially our most vulnerable. So again, this is another example of where we absolutely need women at the decision-making table to make sure that they're represented and to make sure that they are, are more adequately considering the experiences of women in the design and build of cities. So yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Emma. My last question is just around the table, how would you proactively give your advice to colleagues? There is a lot of discussion around this table that speed mitigation, pedestrian crossings, raised crossings, cycleways are bad and the public don't want them. Is that what you're hearing amongst the families, kids that you know? That there's an assumption that no one wants these things and we should cut those budgets?
I don't know who you're talking to. You must be talking to a very privileged few, because most people that I talk to want safer neighbourhoods. They want places where their kids, like I said, can travel to school independently. They want places where they can cross the road without feeling unsafe and being unsafe. That's that's what people really want from their neighbourhoods. And like I said, we can have that, we can support that, and we can still allow our delivery trucks, our private vehicles to use our arterials and to, to get things across the city and move efficiently. It's really, our neighbourhoods need to be much safer, and that is what I'm hearing from people.
Councillor Leone, online.
Kia ora, Emma. Thank you so much for your presentation. And I know that you're really busy with your toddler and so on. You're always an inspiration of moving around the city and showing how we can do that. My question is just around, at the moment we're looking at the equity of funding with the local boards. That's what we'll be looking at over the next period of time. Did you have any feedback specifically on whether we should be also looking at prioritising this across all local boards as well, now that we're reviewing the equity of funding too?
Well, it's not something that I've thought about too much, but I would say, spending needs to go to those communities that are most in need, and it's those low-income communities, those communities that have nothing, that fare the worst when it comes to high-speed street environments. So, yeah, absolutely, some sort of equitable decision-making and equitable funding needs to be applied to ensure that local boards who have very little are not missing out and are provided for. But that's something that I'd love to discuss again with more information.
Finally, Councillor
Thank
Dalton.
you.
Thank you, Emma, for your presentation. It was fantastic. I did miss the beginning because I was in the same meeting as Councillor Hills. But just on his thread around women at the table, but also the voice of children. So it can be very lonely out there if there's not a lot of support around politicians as they try and advocate. Any recommendations on how we can get more of the voice of our children to this decision-making table, because we're making decisions for their future, not just for our own. Any good ideas around that?
Yeah, well, I guess it starts by making sure that these meetings, like, we could actually bring children into these meetings. Like, I've actually done a presentation before with my baby on my lap, and that was a little bit easier when she wasn't swimming around. But, just being open to the fact that sometimes we might bring our children in with us, and being a little bit okay that they might run around a little bit, but actually, think like it's really important that they're there, because they really are the future. They're the people that we're designing for. So yeah, just like, I guess, signaling to people that that's very much an option, and that's something that you guys would be very happy to see. And I guess, yeah, this online option is really great, because I'm really struggling, like, as a new parent, to like make it to council meetings, and so ensuring that there's different ways that we can interact with you, but that that my interaction and my engagement with you is no less important than someone who's able to turn up and be present. And so, yeah, just making sure that people are really aware of that, because I feel like a lot of women feel like their time is wasted if they're just writing a submission when that's the only thing that they can do, it's the only thing that they have time for. And so just making sure that their submissions carry weight, and that they know it carries the same amount of weight just as someone who has a lot of privilege and a lot of time to attend your meetings. That would be my first advice, but I'm sure there's plenty of other things that we can be doing, and I'd be happy to think about that and help with that.
Thank you, Emma.
Right, thank you, Emma. Councillor Dalton, would you like to move the motion of thanks to Emma? And seconded by Councillor Fletcher. All those in favour? Against? Thank you very much, Emma, for your presentation. And I'll now call up Mr. Don Lewis from